Good evening, friends, and welcome to a late night edition of Crime Time with Dutyron and Ed Wallace. We are two retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. Hey, friends, if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get all things Dutyron and Ed Wallace when he's available. He's in Morocco right now, so he's not available to go live. It's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. actually in Morocco. Hey, today, folks, I want to talk to you about the Chad Daybell trial. Day 25, the state rested, but it didn't rest without drama. There was all kinds of clerical issues and things of that nature that had to get squared away. Judge Robert Boyce, what a smart, on top of his courtroom judge. I tell you, I was emotional roller coaster today. And by a show of hands, how many of you have been following this? I have been following it from the beginning. Emotions were running high today. We saw Larry Woodcock give a statement. I thought about, Kay. I thought about the rest of the family and how nerve-wracking that must have been for 2.5 hours. My God, I was in the chat with East Idaho News, and there was 17,000 people in that chat, and there were so many people that were on the fence and just were so upset. I got to be honest with you. These are some things that criminal defense attorneys live for technical mistakes. They live for technical errors. They always tell their clients, no matter how heinous the crime is that they committed, plead not guilty, because the burden of the proof is on the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they make a mistake in the court filings, in the indictment, as we see here, an amended indictment under Rule 29, under Idaho rules and regulations of the court, could have cost the charge of murder for J.J. Vallow to be thrown out. And thank God. I mean, thank God. I prayed and prayed. And people in the chat were like, all the prayers is not going to help. This is going to be court. This is going to be case law. This is going to be court procedures. And sure enough, Judge Boyce took a 2-hour recess, and then he took an additional recess to confer with his law clerks and look at the law and apply it. And I'm thankful that he came back and denied under Rule 29 to have these charges thrown out. How horrible would that have been to not get the charges of murder for J.J. Vallow to be brought forward because of a technical issue, because of a clerical error on an indictment. It involved dates. This was day 25, ladies and gentlemen, and the state rested their case. So let's take a listen to a little bit of media from local, and then we'll listen to Nate Eaton as well, because I love him. He's awesome. Thank you to the moderators, the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the folks who come back and watch the replays. We love the replay viewers, and thank you. I don't usually go live at this time, but I thought it was really important. Yeah, and Cassandra, who I've seen in the chats, and she's back and forth, and obviously over here, it was actually one date, thankfully, right? But the date was sitting there from December 2023, and nobody caught it. That's what freaked me out, Cassandra, is all of the true crime enthusiasts, me included, all of the people who follow this and dot the I's and cross the T's, we didn't catch it. 4 attorneys didn't catch it. The defense arguably didn't catch it. Pryor didn't catch it. It was Judge Boyce that caught it. And thank God he did. Dot to Dot, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Wendy Kraft, Kitty KU, Mac911, Holly, Mavi. Hey, there's my good friend. How you doing? Yeah, so this could have been really, really bad. This could have went really bad. So Mob is checking in from Texas, her new place of residence, I believe. Jen No is here saying hello to everybody. But all right, let's take a listen to this, guys. And by the way, thank you all for subscribing. 301, almost 302,000 subscribers here on Crime Time with Dutyron and Ed Wallace. That's nothing to shake. That is awesome. That's nothing to shake off. And we're going to have a celebration over the weekend, hopefully with Ed. And we got a lot of catching up to do with Ed forensically. So let's take a listen to some local coverage, and then we'll go to Nate Eaton from East Idaho News.
The prosecution rested its case in Chad Daybell's murder trial today, but not without a speed bump. Judge Boyce pointed out an inconsistency found in the state's recently amended indictment.
Why did I call him Robert Boyce? It's Stephen Boyce.
Related to the alleged murder of J.J. Vallow. After trial this afternoon, he held a separate hearing about what prosecutors called a clerical error. Boyce called out dates in the charging document that didn't match the evidence and testimony presented or the initial indictment in the case. Prosecutors had changed the indictment against Chad in February of this year. And under count 4, first-degree murder of J.J. Vallow, they put the wrong dates. The 4 prosecutors appeared shocked when Judge Boyce revealed that information.
Look at the prosecution table right here. All of them looking down, scurrying. She has her hands over her mouth. So, Janet, I love being there with you guys on East Idaho News, and the coverage is great. And I'm there just like everybody else, sitting and chatting it up with you guys. So I enjoy being here, and I thank you all for coming here. I know it's late, and I normally don't go live at this time, and I didn't plan to go live. I just said, you know what, let's talk about this. Let's chat it up and have a conversation. But look at that.
Prosecutors had changed the indictment against Chad in February of this year. And under count 4, first-degree murder of J.J. Vallow, they put the wrong dates. The 4 prosecutors appeared shocked when Judge Boyce revealed that information. Ultimately, the judge agreed it was not done on purpose, and he decided to deny the defense's request for an acquittal on that murder charge, as well as every other count.
Thank you, Suzanne.
The court, having considered that history and the fact that count 4 just never should have been changed because there was no permission to do that, I do find it's an inadvertent mistake. I have also seen case law cited by the state that the actual date or time of is not necessarily a required element of the murder charge. So while these jurors have already heard the information contained in the amended indictment, the court believes that the jurors can be fairly and properly instructed with a curative instruction or some other manner in which to correct what they've heard.
Boyce will issue a follow-up order once he decides how to remedy the error. Before this issue was brought up, prosecutors called their final.
The fact that was happening prior and Chad giggling, they thought that they beat the system. But in fact, if God forbid that charge was thrown out, we'd all be heartbroken, and obviously it would hurt the hearts of Larry and Kay and the family, and everybody who's involved in this, for that matter. But he still would have qualified under the law for the death penalty. That one charge wouldn't have taken it off the table. So, but it didn't happen. You know what I mean? It didn't happen. And I'm just so happy that it worked out in favor of justice for JJ Vallow. I just couldn't shake that. There was that 2-3 hour period that, and I'm not a nervous person. I never get really nervous quick, but I was nervous. I was shaken up about that. Scott, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Lou G, thank you for being here. Holly. But again, I was confident that even if the worst case scenario happened, I was prepared for that worst case scenario. Chad would not get to see the light of day with all of the charges. The conspiracy would have still stuck, and other charges that he has brought forward as it pertains to J.J. Vallow. So, yeah, it was a really drama shocking day. So let's take a listen to the rest of this and let's get to Nate Eaton.
Final witness, retired FBI agent Doug Hart. He went over bizarre texts between Chad and Lori from 2019. In those texts, the couple talks about what they refer to as death percentages for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. Lori continually pushes Chad, asking him how close to death they are. Hart said Chad was the mastermind. He was the source of the death percentages, and through his investigation.
How great was that FBI agent Hart? I mean, he really knocked it out of the park today. It made me proud to be a part of law enforcement, to hear all of the work that they did and what he uncovered here today and what he testified to. It was really second to none. And by a show of hands here in the chat, how many of you listened to the testimony of FBI Special Agent Hart today on the stand? He was fantastic. Holly, you said it well. One word, fantastic. I mean, that's the way it all should be done, you know? So, Alma, we're all praying for you, for your health.
Hart learned Lori repeatedly asked Chad for information. JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. Lori continually pushes Chad, asking him how close to death they are. Hart said Chad was the mastermind. He was the source of the death percentages. And through his investigation, Hart learned Lori repeatedly asked Chad for information. In one of those text exchanges, the couple is talking about a plan for JJ and Tylee. Some of the most critical and clear evidence Hart says he found.
When you indicate that there's the reference to the plan, who is asking if there's a plan?
Lori Vallow is asking Chad Daybell if there is a, quote, perfectly orchestrated plan to take the children.
What is Chad's response?
Chad's response is that there is a plan being orchestrated for the children.
This shows you how evil extreme beliefs can be. I mean, this Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. Thank you, Schmitty. Thank you so much. You guys are pure gold in my eyes. You guys are all pure gold. But this shows you how evil Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow truly were, and how many more people would have died. They talk about killing her friend's kids. Melanie Gibb. We heard testimony today that shouldn't be shocking to us. But as I always say, anything that's extreme, whether it's religion or thoughts or feelings and conviction, if someone comes at you with real extreme beliefs or talking crazy, you got to run for the hills. I mean, these people were around everyday people talking this crazy bullshit, talking this nonsense. Unbelievable, man. I am so glad that they're behind bars. And I can't wait for the jury to come back with guilty verdicts across the board for Chad Daybell. And for that bailiff to say, take charge of this scumbag and put this demon down. Chad Daybell doesn't deserve to breathe the air that we breathe, nor does Lori Vallow, in my eyes. These are demons. These are people who were killing machines. If you didn't believe or go along with their program, prior to her brother, Alex Cox, being killed by, arguably, and this is my thoughts, Alex Cox didn't die a natural death. Dead men tell no tales. Lori and Chad decided it was time to get rid of him. And he killed so many people. Those are my beliefs. And that's my beliefs as a detective. That Alex Cox was just an enforcer for Lori Vallow, and Chad Daybell. There's no other way to put this. And if they weren't stopped, many more people would have died. We could go on and on about this.
Where were Tylee and JJ's remains ultimately located?
On Chad Daybell's property.
Many times, Mom.
Chad and his attorney shook their heads often throughout Hart's testimony, and his defense attorney, John Pryor, frequently objected. In those texts, Chad also references extreme changes coming for him. It caught Hart's attention because within 3 months, Tylee, JJ, and Tammy were all killed. Another exchange from August of 2019 stuck out, where Chad says they're close to the, quote, finish line. Hart determined the finish line was for Chad and Lori to live a fantasy life, free and encumbered from their spouses and Lori's children. Court will be back in session on Monday.
Unbelievable.
The prosecution.
And they showed the pictures real quick at the end, but it's about the victims. JJ, Tylee, and Chad's wife, Tammy. Sad, really sad. But you look at the families, you look at the victims and the families, and Larry and Kay come to mind. They have been fighting so hard for justice. We saw them throughout Lori Vallow's trial, and here today when they took the break, right? Coexist, thank you. And I want to try to keep up with the chat. Lou Holt says, I agree with you 100%. Hey, listen, my thoughts are exactly it. My thoughts. I respect everybody's thoughts and opinions, but I call balls and strikes. And, as a seasoned New York City detective who arguably saw hundreds of murderers right in front of me on different occasions, obviously, in my presence, and listened to and sat in on interviews and interrogations and did my own interviews and interrogations, working in the Fugitive Enforcement Division, I've seen these kind of people. And I've seen people who try to look you straight in the eye and justify taking another person's life, telling you that this person did this and deserved that. Evil walks amongst us, and they're everyday people. You look at Lori Vallow, and if you don't know anything about her, you think, oh, she looks like a regular mom, regular type of person. You look at Chad Daybell, and he doesn't look like a regular person, but other things come to mind. But I'm just saying, he's not someone that looks like a Charles Manson. But they were killing machines. They were murderers. Evil comes in all shapes and sizes and looks. You can't judge a book by its cover, right? Jennifer, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Erica, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Dawn Marie, one love. Thank you. So here's Larry outside the courthouse after that break and after the drama that happened at the Chad Daybell trial, day 25. So let's take a listen to this.
Children. JJ was the most innocent of all of this, a 7-year-old autistic child.
The prosecution rested its case in Chad Daybell's murder trial today, but not without a roadblock. Welcome to the News at 4. I'm Brenda Rodriguez.
And I'm Joe Paris. Ada County Judge Stephen Boyce pointed out an inconsistency in the state's recently amended indictment related to the alleged murder of J.J. Vallow. Let's get right out the door to the Ada County Courthouse to Morgan Romero. Morgan's been following this really all day and these new developments just happening this afternoon. Morgan, Judge Boyce just made a decision about the issue during a hearing. What do we know?
In that hearing that ended just moments ago, Judge Stephen Boyce, who's overseeing this case, denied the defense's request for an acquittal on that murder charge regarding J.J. Vallow, as well as all other counts on that indictment. Boyce acknowledged that this inconsistency, as you mentioned, was not done on purpose. However, he is still considering how he is going to move forward and remedy this issue with jurors. Here's what happened. after the prosecution rested their case, the judge called out what prosecutors called a clerical mistake in the charging document. Prosecutors changed the governing indictment against Chad in February of this year, and under count 4, first-degree murder of J.J. Vallow, they put the wrong dates. The amended indictment said J.J. was killed on or between September 8th and 9th of 2019, but that's when Tylee was killed. The document didn't match the evidence presented throughout trial or the initial indictment from 2021, which states that prosecutors believe JJ was killed between the 22nd and 23rd of September. An hour and a half ago, the prosecution presented 3 options. 1, they said the judge could correct the indictment since they never intended to change that count regarding JJ. 2, they said the judge could accept a variance and give the jury new instructions about it. Or 3, they said Judge Boyce could reopen the case. Chad's defense attorney, John Pryor, meanwhile, argued Idaho criminal rules state an indictment can be amended only before the prosecution rests.
And Your Honor, we're all kind of falling on our sword here. This was clearly an oversight. We're talking about a clerical error in a subsequent document that was not in the initial document. This is exactly the type of mistake or inadvertent.
Look at this attorney, man. He's got his hand on his head, on his face, and is just looking down. I don't know if he's looking at documents or doing research, but these 4 look like they just saw a ghost. And, there was a lot on the line for over 2.5 hours. There was a lot on the line. These guys' reputation were on the line, and whoever was responsible for fact checking and double checking those documents. Thank you for becoming a member. Mitz, thank you so much for being a member. Welcome. So these 4 and the whole team behind this prosecutorial side have a lot of explaining to do, because you can't have, in such a high profile case like this, in any case, you cannot have this happen. It did, Holly. It was the longest 2.5 or whatever, how long that was. I literally had dinner with my wife, and I don't drink I'm not a drinker. I don't drink alcohol on a regular basis. I had a drink tonight because it was going on during my dinner time. Trudy with the booty, good to see you. I had a drink because I was in a bundle of nerves. I was stuck to my phone. I don't even like to bring the phone to the dinner table, but I brought my phone there and I was listening and waiting. That's how tight I was over this.
That the court could reopen here. This was clearly an oversight. We're talking about a clerical error in a subsequent document that was not in the initial document. This is exactly the type of mistake or inadvertence that the court could reopen this case for.
The specificity of 7E doesn't say the court has the authority to go back and allow them to reopen. It doesn't say they have the authority to go back and create a variance. It doesn't say they have a right to go back and make a correction. What it does say is they may and they have to make any amendments or corrections prior to resting their case.
Now, I got to tell you, I did some law sleuthing when Pryor put this statement forward. And I don't give him much credit because I can't stand to even listen to him or look at him. And I'm sorry that I freeze the screen with Chad Daybell and Mr. Pryor. But when he was putting this point forward, I was convinced in the quick look that I did at the law and Article 29, Rule 29, and so forth. There was a couple of other rules, and the quick research I did on it, and of course it wasn't a deep dive, but the research I did, I was like, holy shit, Taki mushrooms. Pryor is going to win this. And it freaked me the out. And I did say the F word, but I bleeped it out because I know this is a family channel. But John Pryor had a valid argument, and they did rest. And some of the writings I read stated that you could not change. You could not make an amendment to an indictment after you rest. He wasn't completely wrong. Yes, he wasn't completely wrong. But Judge Boyce is a thorough and fair judge. He was looking out for the defense and for the prosecution. He is the one who put this to light. And if he didn't put it to light, this guy might have got wind of it. And if he got wind of it, if it went any further, they might have had to drop that charge. So thank God that Judge Boyce brought it up. So it's some people are going to have a lot of explaining to do, So, CA Beforden says changes to the document was not authorized. If that in fact is the case, somebody or people are going to have to get together and say, "Hey, we can't have this happen again. We're on the big stage. Everybody's watching. The whole world is watching. And when the whole world's watching, you got to get it right. You got to get it right." So thank God it went right for the good guys.
There's nothing else that says, well, we got a
Document that was not in the initial document. This is exactly the type of mistake or inadvertence that the court could reopen this case for.
the specificity of 7E. Doesn't say the court has the authority to go back and allow them to reopen. It doesn't say they have the authority to go back and create a variance. It doesn't say they have a right to go back and make a correction. What it does say is they may and they have to make any amendments or corrections prior to resting their case. There's nothing else that says, well, we got a little bit of wiggle room here and let's let them change things after they rest their case. And 4 lawyers had a chance to look at this indictment. 4 lawyers have had over a year to analyze this.
The 4 prosecutors appeared shocked when Judge Boyce revealed the information this afternoon. JJ's grandpa, Larry Woodcock, was also confused, surprised, and disheartened. Before that hearing that just wrapped up, he told me it seemed to be a technical issue.
Right now, it's very confusing. I'm very disappointed. I'm very hurt. And I don't know what the ruling's going to be. Nobody does. But I just hope, as I've said all along, I just want a fair, just, and honorable and righteous ruling by the court. It's very disheartening to me, but I will be strong. I will be confident that this issue will be worked out, and I hope that the murder of JJ will be kept in evidence.
That was the part that really broke my heart when he got emotional there. You could feel it, you could see it. And when Lori Vallow was on trial and he was in the courtroom or inside, somewhere inside the courthouse, they had to have an ambulance respond. And I right away thought of his health and his heart. But, Larry is a strong-willed man, and JJ was his pride and joy. And when I heard him give this statement, it brought me to tears. Yeah, Mav. Larry is a champion, and I just love him and Kay so much. I'm so sorry he went through this. I cried today. You and many others, me included. But they kept their cool according to reports and people who I've spoken with, and they just prayed, and they were confident that there would be a righteous decision, and that we got a righteous decision.
And again, that is what happened. That count was not acquitted. Again, Judge Boyce said he thinks he needs time to figure out how he's going to remedy this error, whether he'll have to give the jury new instructions or formally correct the indictment. He says he'll issue a follow-up order about that. Joe and Brenda.
Morgan, you mentioned the remedy. I know this is all developing, but do we know if Judge Boyce has a timeline in terms of when that remedy will be rolled out? I can imagine that the defense would really like to have that timeline.
Yeah, the prosecution and the defense, right? Because this is really for the jurors, and the jurors need those instructions, or that indictment needs to be amended before they.
Okay, so obviously this was, as it was going on, and I just wanted to play that. So they're just going to talk it out there. But, things like this, you don't expect to happen in cases like this. You don't expect this to happen in any courtroom, but it does happen. You hear about defense attorneys telling their clients, you don't have anything to lose. Let's plead not guilty and let's hope for a technicality. We maybe can get you off on a technicality, or if the police make a mistake in evidence collection and so forth. So defense attorneys, this is their dream to have this happen. This is a dream of any defense attorney, to have the state mess up, because that's how they get their clients off, is by a mess up. So again, Gene, yes, kudos to the judge. And it was just so unnerving today. Like, we've been following this case from the beginning. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. Seeing this through and seeking justice for the victims, for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, and we still have Charles Vallow to get justice for, and that's also on the plate, and it's coming down the pike. Yeah, Mel, I'm a fan of Judge Boyce as well. He's a stand-up guy. And Pryor's dreams were crushed, Susie Q. You are 100% right. Let's take a listen to what Nate. I freaking love Nate Eaton. I love Nate not just because he's a great reporter, because he's a great family man. He's a great human being. Nate, that he does during Christmas, the Christmas jingle, and goes around and showers people with love around the Christmas holidays. He shows us his family, his wife, meeting the Eatons and their YouTube channel. He had to go live on that channel tonight. But what I really love about him is he's a genuine person. He's a great person. Forget about the news reporting. That is all fantastic. Top notch. Fantastic. But what makes it even more fantastic is that he's a good human being. He cares. He reports the stories with love. He reports the stories from his heart. And you can see that clearly when he talks. And I've been begging him for years to come on with me on a live stream, and I hope one day he does. I want to get him to come on here with me, because I think that he deserves the kudos that I want to give him with a big audience, with a whole bunch of people watching. I want Nate to come on YouTube here and get showered with love from the true crime community. So here he is. Tonight he had some technical issues in his hotel. He was talking about the room. He'll never take that room again. He's got some crummy Wi-Fi and so forth. So it gets cut off. But let's listen to what he says. Yeah, the gifting that he does is really great. It's unbelievable. Coexist 2020 says, Dutyron, I've been following this trial since day one, yet missed this morning. Of course, in parentheses. But why in the heck did Boyce just happen to notice right after the state rested? Seems weird. He was doing his due diligence. It's part of the judge's duty to make sure everything is right. And I'm sure he was hoping that the state and or the defense picked up on it. But nobody did. Nobody picked up on it. And he had to say something. And once the state rested, it was his job to say something, and he did. So I don't think there was anything shady about it. I don't think anything shady at all. Joey Brooklyn, welcome.
Detective, the agent, went on to read more texts.
So he's talking about the FBI
Lori
agent.
is texting Chad. The death percentages keep coming up. And here is a text that Chad sends to Lori. You are adorable, beautiful, wonderful, heavenly, luscious, and angelic.
Oh,
You have so many
hell
divine
no.
attributes rolled into one dynamic, desirable package.
This is
I want you even
puke-worthy.
more desperately than you want me. Chad also says, just grab me by the storm and I will follow you to the ends of the universe. Lori to Chad, when might that be? Chad responds, Wednesday evening, and then repeatedly and gloriously until Friday. And this is how Doug Hart responded.
Before he plays FBI Special Agent Doug Hart's testimony, I want to answer something. And in the super chat from Suzanne Galasso, thank you for the super chat. She says, will this open the door for an appeal? Appeals are automatic. It happens. Lori's Shallow Vallow is appealing her guilty, her verdicts. An appeal is an automatic. This is not going to enhance it because it got corrected before it got to a certain point. It got corrected, and then the judge was able to nip it in the bud. So this won't give them any more or less of an appeal. They're still going to file an appeal no matter what. And I'm not an attorney, but I know this from experience. They're going to appeal. It's automatic. They just every case they do it. But thank you for the super chat.
And 26.
About these particular messages stood out to you?
Primarily lines 26, 22, 2608, and 2607.
Through the investigation, did you become familiar with what has been referred to as the James and Elena story?
Yes.
Did you become familiar with some of the texts that appeared to be a reference or continuation of that story as well?
Yes.
And do you know were you familiar with the term storm?
I am.
And did you know what that was in reference to?
Yes.
And what was that?
That's Chad.
Thanks, Schmitty.
So the jury got to hear that again. And there weren't any smiles this time. There weren't the first time, and Chad, there was the first time from Chad, but not from the jurors. Doug Hart went on to read more text. So he didn't go to analyze more text. So these texts, and I'm hearing we might be having technical difficulties. I can promise you that I won't be staying in this room again at this. Chad to Lori, one question. Do you want me to cause pain yet to those 2 3s you're writing with? For this one from the first trial. I remember from Lori Vallow's trial, Chad talking about turning the pain up to 10. And then I remember on this trial,
this is how evil Chad Daybell is. He was talking about turning the pain up to the kids, to JJ and Tylee, while they were alive in the car. They were driving in the car. I think Melanie Gibb was with her. And these are the text messages going back and forth. Chad is saying, do you want me to turn the pain up for these kids? This is crazy.
The zapping of the children. Chad to Lori on July 29th. One question. Do you want me to cause pain? Let me back up. Lori is with Melanie Boudreaux going on a trip to California. They're driving.
Right.
Chad to Lori. One question. Do you want me to cause pain yet to those 2 3s you're riding with? Lori to Chad. Probably hold off till we arrive. They will be a mistake to deal with. Then she later says miserable, not mistake. but I'll text you if they start acting up and we can zap them. Chad to Lori, sounds great. Yes, if they are going to act up, we'll at least give them a reason to scream. I love, cherish, treasure, and adore you. The wonderful memories just keep coming back. You are mesmerizing. Raphael is one lucky guy. So let's zap the kids, but I love you. And here is what Agent Hart said about that.
And Agent Hart, can you read the date of these messages into the record?
Yes, these 4 messages were exchanged on July 29th of 2019.
Who were the messages being exchanged between?
Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow.
This is an FBI agent.
What about these particular messages caught your attention?
At this particular time in the investigation, Lori Vallow, Melanie Boudreau, and their children, as well as Alex Cox, had decided to take a trip to the California coast. And so these messages were sent to Lori Vallow as they were driving in the car, as Lori Vallow, Melanie Boudreau, Alex Cox, and the children were driving to California. And so Chad Daybell makes an offer to Lori Vallow to cause pain to the 2, quote, threes that she was riding with.
So the murderer, Alex Cox, was driving with them in the car. What was Chad going to do? Text him to maybe inflict this pain, or was Chad going to be able to do it through his powers? These people are crazy. This is a level of crazy that you don't see until a trial commences. And hearing this today was not shocking because we knew how these people operated. But just to hear it, to hear a FBI special agent read out these text messages, it really pounded it home that these were killing machines. These are crazy, insane people. And it's all because of extreme beliefs. Chad Daybell is like that to this day. I saw people in the chat today saying Chad is trying to teleport into the brain of Judge Boyce to get him to rule in his favor. I don't think that that's not possible. That I'm not saying that I think he could do it, but I'm saying in his sick thinkings, in his sick mind, he may think that he could do that. That's how f***ed up this guy is. I used the bleep machine again.
Have you ever gone on a road trip with little kids? Hold on.
At the line 1872, did any of that catch your attention?
Of course. In line 1877, the 2 threes are referencing 2 of the children that are in the car with them. And in line 1872, Chad Daybell indicates that he would at least give them a reason to scream, indicating a supposed ability to cause physical pain to those children.
I don't think so, Larry. I don't think that his...
Now, if you've ever been in a car with children on a road trip or just going down the street to the grocery store, they make you want to scream sometimes.
Absolutely.
But that's not what we're talking about here. They're talking about zapping the children and the children being miserable, and Lori saying, just give it a minute. If I need help, I'll have you zap them. This plan happening? Can you please check? Things like that. And Chad would come back with answers. Here's a slide that we saw. I know this is a picture from the picture of the picture at the court. You see, that's Chad on the left, standing in front of a picture of Jesus in an old LDS church. And on the right is...
Here comes the religion part. And I highlighted a message from somebody in the chat saying that they weren't religious, but they damn sure did their best. Chad did his best to show his followers, the people who he got into their minds, the people who he had command and control over, that he was godly and that he could make everything okay. He can change things. He can make your problems go away, make your children disappear. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that religion or anything extreme, any type of belief that is extreme, is dangerous.
Is Alex standing in front of a picture of Jesus in an old LDS church. And Alex sent the picture to Chad, and Chad sent the picture to Alex, Alex sent the picture of Chad to Lori, and then Chad sent the picture of Alex to Lori. So they sent both of these pictures to Lori, and they said, Alex sent to Lori, look at the bubbies. And then Chad texted Lori, 2 exalted beings.
And BB2.
2 exalted beings.
Great comment.
Standing in the old church house. The texts went on. After the photos, Lori texts Chad on August 10th. Charles has been dead for a month. Please check JJ. He just woke up saying crazy stuff and won't go back to sleep. He's talking to Blake. It's weird. Blake is his cousin, Melanie's son. That was at 1:18.
I just want to be clear. So thank you for this comment, Diana Pombano. I disagree about religious beliefs. Well, he exhibited religion in his beliefs. That he used religion to maybe try to trick people. Chad is a con man and learned years ago that this shtick would work with weak people, especially women. It was only about sex, money, and power. I mean, I agree to a certain extent with that. I definitely agree with this statement. But he incorporated his beliefs in his religion and stuck with it and continued with it in his work. You know, remember, he's a grave digger. He worked at a funeral home. He was around death. That was part of his job. He was a grave digger. So he was around the funeral business for a long, long time. And anybody that's in the funeral business knows that you have to have some religious faith because you have to do certain things if you work at a funeral home. And I did it myself. I worked for a little while after I retired in a funeral home. And then I didn't say it wasn't for me. I just stopped doing it. But I did it for maybe a year or so. And I was around the funeral business. So, but yeah, Chad's a sick, evil man. And Lori is equally as evil. And there was many more that were around him that read his books and that have still to this day have his beliefs. And they're out there. They're out there running around.
Chad responds at 7:24. JJ is still JJ. I'm told his spirit recognizes Blake is evil and is unsettled by him. An hour later, Chad texts, hi, my love. How is JJ now? Lori responds, he's better. He was just up talking nonsense for like 2 hours later last night. I'm sure they are bugging him. Is he at 0 yet? I miss you.
Jesus.
Gosh. So the thing is, the prosecution made a point that JJ's dad, who cared for him a lot, is gone out of his life. And I'm sure he didn't get 1 ounce of therapy, of sympathy, of compassion. Suddenly this man who's taking care of him at all times is gone. That might be a reason why he woke up in the middle of the night, missing his dad.
Absolutely.
Having nightmares.
Which his dad was shot and killed by Alex Cox. Right? And Nate brings up a really valid point. They didn't give him, it would take him for any type of therapy or talk to a counselor or maybe give him love that he needed. Lori Shallow Vallow despised him. He wanted nothing to do with him. So towards the back end of JJ's life, he wasn't getting any loving. Not from them, not from those people, those monsters. So Nate is right.
How many times do your little kids wake up in the night and want to crawl in with you?
Exactly.
So that was an interesting point that the prosecutors brought up. Lori gets frustrated that things are not moving fast. In fact, she pressures Chad. Here's an example. What should I be doing? Chad says, "You're doing everything right, my love. The Lord told me. She is right on track. He said to just keep resolving the telestial issues. So you are unencumbered and fully free. That actually feels good that JJ was talking to the real Blake, getting close. When I was sitting across from him eating bacon, I sensed he was barely attached to his body."
Jesus.
Chad to Lori, "You're so incredible. In many ways, your mission has barely begun." Lori to Chad, "As long as it ends with you, it's all good." Chad to Lori, "Yes, cheek to cheek, loin to loin." Lori to Chad, "I wish I could be with you cheek to cheek." Chad to Lori, "It's very far away, my love. I seriously cannot stop crying. It's going to be da-da-da-da-da." Lori to Chad, "I cannot wait. I have no patience. I want you now. When will this happen? I want you now." Oh, hell no. Here is another set of texts that were read. We're going to clip number 4. And the response from Doug Hart.
I agree, Simi
The
Shaw.
messages exchanged between.
Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell.
And these messages were sent on the same day as those 2 images.
Correct.
What about these messages stood out to you?
The thing that stood out the most in this text series is in line 1391 in the text from Lori Vallow to Chad Daybell, where she indicates, "We are both so tired of taking care of demons. We are weary. Please ask the Lord to take them!" Exclamation point.
Ask the Lord.
Okay, if you're a juror, what are you going to think when you hear that comment? "We're so tired. Please ask the Lord to take them."
Gross.
I mentioned Lori gets impatient. The pictures are shown of them going to Yellowstone, the last known sighting of Tylee. And it's one of those photos that if you take, it's like the burst where there's a little bit of video. And we saw Tylee holding JJ next to Alex, and we saw a little bit of movement. I don't know what it is. There was something more touching, I guess, about the photo, seeing a little bit of movement, seeing like a video clip of them. And then same with the photo of JJ on the couch. The last time he was seen alive playing with that cup. You've seen the photo. He's in the red PJs. There was a little bit of movement to that photo.
Yep, I remember.
They also showed the texts from the babysitter. Remember how Lori hired that babysitter, Sydney, and she was going to come over, and she did come over the one time and watch JJ, and it was going to be a regular thing. And Sydney, who testified about this, texted Lori and said, "You know, I'm ready to help." And Lori said, "Oh, JJ's going to stay with his grandma. We won't need you. We'll be in touch. She's going to be in Hawaii, or I'm going to go to Hawaii and we'll be in touch. And I understand if you need to get another job." Lori also, tells a friend on the day that Tammy died. Someone texts her, they don't know who, and it's just an unknown number, says, "Have you heard that Chad Daybell's wife died?" And she says, "Oh no, what happened?" And the friend says she was coughing in her sleep and she died. And then we see a text. This is no.
So how casual she talked to people about this. Oh, she coughed in her sleep and she died. It's so terrible. But we're going to be getting married in a week. I got a wedding dress and his whole outfit I bought. I did my shopping on Amazon. Like, really? I'm so glad that she's behind bars and having bugs crawling all over her inside prison. These prisons are disgusting and dirty. Like everyone says, oh, they get 3 square meals a day. But when the lights go out and it's dark in the middle of the night and it's cold or it's hot, there's no air conditioning. There's no heat for you to turn on. You're not comfortable. You're sleeping on a little shitty mattress, bugs, dirt, the food that you get fed, things get put in it. Inmates do things to it because they work in the kitchen. I'm happy about that. I think about that. See, because I've been around the prison system for so long, and I know how such a shitty environment it is, that when I hear of these scumbags and these evil demons and these monstrous people when I know that they're incarcerated and locked down where they're supposed to be, that it's not fun. It's not a place that any of y'all would want to be. It's nasty. I've been in and out of many prisons across America. And I've been to the worst here. I've been to Sing Sing in New York. I've been to Attica. I've been to many, many different places. And they are horrific. Some worse than others. But, I mean, the stories, you know, of prisoners urinating in the food, spitting in it, ejaculating in it, defecating in it, mixing it up. The things that go on, I'm telling you, it exists. It goes on. It's nasty. So, I hope Lori's having a good time. And Chad.
November 5th of 2019. So 4 days before the gun incident in the driveway. Chad texts Lori. Hello, sweet angel. Big news about Tammy. Tell me when you're awake if you can, and we'll talk.
Jesus.
And I believe this is the same time that Chad has sent Tammy to Springville, Utah to be with her family. So his wife's not home. And that was the night that they were supposed to go on the real date, Lori and Chad, the real date, her term. Chad texts and says, hello, sweet angel. Big news about Tammy. Let me know when you're awake and we'll talk. Then the short version is she has been switched. Tammy is in limbo and a level 3 demonic entity named Viola is in her body. It happened at about 10 p.m. and was done by Tammy's sister, Sam, who I always knew was 3D, not like 3D, but 3 dark. But it turns out she is a multiple creation. Viola has been attached for about a year to my niece, Danica, who is Sam's 12-year-old daughter. I have connected with Tammy in limbo, and she's very frustrated and upset. She wants Viola removed as soon as possible. Viola seems to be similar to Penelope. The personality...
Did you hear this craziness? I mean, am I the only one that's saying, what the hell? This is normal conversation for them. This is a normal text string that they do before they got caught. It's almost insane to hear this, right? Mel says, poor Tammy. Yeah. Mac underscore retired 911 said, I spent one night in a local jail 40 years ago. Talk about scary. Talk about scared straight. Yeah, prison, jail, it's no fun. You don't get good treatment there. It's nasty.
Differences from Tammy should be evidence, and says, hello, sweet angel. Big news about Tammy. Let me know when you're awake and we'll talk. Then
this is Chad texting Lori. Hello, sweet angel. Great news about Tammy. This guy's crazy. Rochelle Pranzo, match made in hell. Abso-freaking-lutely. Let me go.
The short version is she has been switched. Tammy is in limbo and a level 3 demonic entity named Viola is in her body. It happened at about 10 p.m. and was done by Tammy's sister, Sam, who I always knew was 3D, not like 3D, but 3 dark. But it turns out she is a multiple creation. Viola has been attached for about a year to my niece, Danica, who is Sam's 12-year-old daughter. I have connected with Tammy in limbo, and she's very frustrated and upset. She wants Viola removed as soon as possible. Viola seems to be similar to Penelope. The personality differences from Tammy should be evidenced quickly. Please seek a confirmation on this, but I have now checked 3 times since I got home and get more affirmative answers each time. I kid you not. How do you keep it all straight? That's my question.
Exactly.
The names, the number. How do you keep it all straight?
People are batshit
Chad
crazy.
continues. Sam is much like Brandon Boudreaux. She's been my biggest enemy over the years. She refuses to read my books. And through the biggest fit when we moved to Idaho, she has only visited us when the kids get married and always fled Idaho within hours, like she was being burned. She's definitely comparable to Brandon. And Summer's dark. Not really sure of the timing for removal, but once her actions verify the differences, I don't want to wait. 4 days later, a gunman shows up in the driveway.
Tammy's driveway.
And tries to kill Tammy.
Alex Cox.
Here is what the agent said about those texts.
This is telling, right?
But in
here.
these messages, Chad Daybell is providing an explanation, a narrative indicating that Tammy has been switched and that there is a demonic entity that is now in Tammy Daybell's body that she wants removed. And that word removed, I think, is critical.
And do you see in here?
And you see, he just stays there and doesn't move. He doesn't even look around. He's just staring, straight ahead. Chad barely moves when this is all being talked about. This is his wife, his high school sweetheart, somebody who he reared, has children with. I swear, I got to do this. By a show of hands in the chat, how many of you think that his children still are still drinking the Kool-Aid and still think that their dad is a good person? Put a 1 in the chat if you think they're still on board with him. I'm going to already put my 1. Put a 2 in the chat if you think that they're not no longer on his side. My 1 is recorded. And don't be swayed by what I say, please. I want to see if we get a number 2 because, I respect it. Yeah. They've been drinking the Kool-Aid. Reverend Jim Jones-ish. Come on around, everybody. Drink the Kool-Aid. Come on. Black Rose says, Dutyron, do you think Chad will get off on the 2 kids, JJ and Tylee, charges? I think that he's going to be found guilty as, and I did say the F word. They're going to come back straight across the board. Thank you for that question.
Or a reference to the name of the demonic entity?
Yes, the name that Chad Daybell assigns to this demonic entity is Viola.
Judge, I'm going to object, move to strike. There's no testimony regarding who assigned what.
Overruled.
We talked about the word removal based on your review of the iCloud account, your review of other things involved in this investigation. What was significant about removal?
Removal indicates the physical death of the person who has the demonic entity.
And the jurors heard that.
Unbelievable. Mav, I know you have some insight into this about still believing with the situation that happened with your cousin in Kelowna, British Columbia. And we did a live stream together on it. I'll link it here in the description if you guys want to go and watch it. But she definitely has some insight on this.
Okay, we move on to Tammy dying and the texts right after the death on the 20th, the day after. Chad to Lori. Percentage in body, Holster 24, Cola 11, Grystone 14. Chad to Lori. Good job on lowering them. I love talking with you. It is baby night, so come get me later. Chad to Lori. Missing you so much. I can feel you in bed with me, though I can hardly wait to truly hold you tightly every day and night. Lori to Chad. Missing you more. I need you desperately. I can't wait. Lori to Chad. Need you to hold me tight. That would be great. What about the idea of you coming here Thursday or Friday? So she's in Hawaii. Chad is here. And Chad is in Idaho, I should say. And Lori wants to see him. And Chad's like, I got to stay here. I got to take care of finances. I got to get this ready. Lori is not real happy. She says, At one point, I don't know if it's around this time, I think it was a little before this, where she's like, I didn't even get to talk to you on your birthday. You need to focus on your family. You need to take care of this. Actually, I think we'll play that for you in a minute. That was on cross-examination with Pryor. Chad goes on to tell Lori how he wants to go full steam ahead on the Lily workout plan, tighten the abs, get a full body tan, grow my hair out. That would be really great for both of us.
Jeez.
Lori to Chad, I love that plan. It's not soon enough, though. This is torture. Maybe you need to clear my mind so I can't remember how much I love you.
Hey, wasn't Chad looking?
But
wasn't Chad looking real buff when Nate followed them in Hawaii? Like he looked thinner, skinnier. You know, I don't know if that was because this was this master plan that he's talking about of getting himself ready and so forth. But I want to just go to the super chats real quick for a second. RY, the guy, sends a $5. Thank you for the support. I'm hoping one day we find out who this Amy was that Chad was referring to in his and Lori's text. Nobody seems to know who Amy is supposed to be. I mean, if anybody's got insight on that, I mean, it's probably anybody's guess, and it could be one of many different people. Puzzle Pieces sends in a $10 super chat, and she says, I loved what Aunt Vicky told Lori on her victim impact statement. I hope you live the rest of your life terrified, the same way that you terrified Tylee by telling her she was dark and a zombie. Evil people. Amen to that. Puzzle Pieces. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for that message. I hope that she doesn't have one good day. Not one.
it feels like Raphael and Lily reach out to us all the time. Psychics. There is no legally sufficient evidentiary basis for a reasonable jury to reach a different conclusion. Basically, John Pryor says, Judge, there's been enough evidence here. Please acquit my client. It's a kind of a procedural thing. He did that. Ingrid Beatty from the prosecution's team went on to say, Your Honor, there actually is enough, and here's why. Count one, count two. We have these witnesses, this evidence. Boom, 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 boom. You should reject it. The judge says, okay, I'm prepared to rule, but we have a problem. Here's the exchange, and watch the prosecution box, the camera on the prosecutors. Many of you sent me screenshots. Look at them when they hear the news, and I wish you could see the courtroom. It was like a, what? Just watch.
Oh my God.
And hear what he said.
I would have freaking passed out.
The courts reviewed the motion, which is a motion brought under Rule 29 of the Idaho Criminal Rules. And this is a motion for judgment of acquittal, which reads that we're now at the time the prosecution has closed its evidence. And if the court finds, based on the standards cited there by the state, insufficient evidence, the rule reads, must enter a judgment of acquittal.
Hold on. What did I do? Let me get myself back on. What happened? What did you do, Dutyron? There, I got it back. Whew, it scared me. Technical difficulties.
Acquittal of any offense for which the evidence is insufficient to sustain a conviction. I've listened throughout the trial to all of the evidence submitted. There's multiple counts in this amended indictment. As I've gone through those, I'm prepared to make a ruling on nearly all of the motion here, but there is one particular issue that has arisen in the charging document, and I'd like to address that with the state if I could. So in the initial indictment filed in this case on May 25th, 2021, and I'm looking at count 4, which is the charge of first-degree murder involving J.J. Vallow. Initially, it was alleged that, quote,
Popeye's going crazy right now. I don't know why, but my 37-year-old African gray who shares my studio with me is deciding to go into a talking and whistling rare nighttime session. But this is the judge breaking the news. I'm going to let it play for the rest of the time.
on or between the 22nd and 23rd of September 2019 is when the murder was committed. The state amended the indictment on February 20th 2024. And under the amended indictment, the count 4 now reads as follows. The defendant, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, on or between the 8th and 9th day of September 2019 in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, and then goes on to describe the allegations about the murder of JJ Vallow. When I look at the evidence that's been presented here from the state, the evidence not only does not support a finding of the dates between the 8th and 9th of September, but contradicts that in that JJ Vallow was clearly alive after the 9th of September from many witnesses, including testimony today. And so I have some concern that the charging language, which would control in this case in the amended indictment, cites a date range that does not comport with the evidence. And I'm concerned about instructing jurors with evidence that I believe was never presented here at trial. It's an issue identified as we prepared for this hearing today. I understand the state may not have been aware of that. It wasn't argued by the defense, but the court has its own duty to also review the evidence and under 29, point out anything that may be considered for a potential judgment of acquittal. And so I don't know if the state is ready or willing to address the issue on the dates contained in count 4 now, or whether the state would like some additional time to look at the issue. And
this is what everyone was talking about, is the prosecution down here, the view of the prosecution and podium. They're like scurrying and freaking out, but we had a good view of it in the beginning of the show. It was just the news, the local news just showed that view. They actually homed in on that view, and they were shitting a brick. That's for sure. They were very, very upset. So yeah, make sure you put a 1 in the chat. Make sure you hit the thumbs up real quick. And if you can, please subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. But yeah, they were scurrying, and rightfully so. I mean, this is huge. What the bomb that he just dropped in that courtroom. As Nate said, everybody in the audience was just like, huh, what the hell's going on here?
perhaps come back a little later this afternoon and present some additional argument or authority. But I have a concern about count 4. The testimony does not comport with that. I'll note one additional point. We have an on or about instruction that's already been given and will be given. In some of the counts in the amended indictment, there are on or about language. There's also others that have on or between language. And in my mind, a plain reading of an on or between still gives a date range, but the range is from one date to another. And I don't know that that's the same as on or about, which allows maybe a further deviance of times listed in the charging information. And again, count 4 reads on or between the 8th and 9th of September. So, Ms. Beatty, do you have any response to the court's concern as it relates to count 4?
And Your Honor, if we could come back and address that perhaps Monday morning, so we have the opportunity to review that prior to the defendant's case. I'm not sure anyone was aware of.
And Judge, I need to respond for the record.
Yes. Why don't you? I did say a lot.
This response, by the way, is puke worthy, but it's now prior. Spreading is like a peacock. He's like prancing around like a peacock. Welcome to all the gifted members. I hope you guys enjoy your 30 days of free memberships and consider subscribing after that. I'd greatly appreciate it. Take a chance with us. See what you get for that membership for 30 days, and hopefully you guys stick around. If not, it's always free to subscribe.
There, Mr. Pryor offered the state a chance to respond. Any response from the defense, Mr. Pryor?
Judge, state has had an opportunity and an ample opportunity to review their pleadings. They've made amendments.
And this is why people thought Pryor knew about this, because he just sprung right into action, like almost like he knew exactly what he was going to say. I mean, granted, this is his job, and as a defense attorney, you know about this, but this is why everyone felt like Pryor knew about this and was just keeping it in his pocket. But Judge Boyce said that not the state, not the defense, nobody knew about it, with the exception of him. He part of his admissions is that he became aware of it today during day 25. I don't know when, or I don't know at what point, but Judge Boyce said nobody knew about it. But it sounded like to me, like Pryor was just like, okay, it's party time.
Of times listed in the charging information. And again, count 4 reads on or between the 8th and 9th of September. So, Ms. Beatty, do you have any response to the court's concern as it relates to count 4?
And Your Honor, if we could come back and address that perhaps Monday morning, so we have the opportunity to review that prior to the defendant's case. I'm not sure anyone was aware of.
And Judge, I need to respond for the record.
Yes. Why don't you, I did say a lot there, and Mr.
Correct,
Pryor
Gina.
offered the state a chance to respond. Any response from the defense, Mr. Pryor?
Judge, state has had an opportunity and an ample opportunity to review their pleadings. They've made amendments of those pleadings once, and we had a hearing on those amendments in which I agreed they could make whatever amendments they wanted. And now we sit on the eve of the defense starting their cause. The state has rested. The defense has made a motion under Rule 29 for a directed verdict. I don't think this gives the state the ability to make any modifications or amendments after they've rested their case, and at which time I've made a motion for a directed verdict. That motion for the directed verdict, Judge, pulls the state from making any further adjustments to the accusations they're making against Mr. Daybell.
The indictment.
I'm suggesting I'd ask the court to make its ruling on my directed verdict.
All right. I'd note there's actually a rule that governs this directly. Idaho Criminal Rule 7E. The court may permit amendment of an indictment, quote, at any time before the prosecution rests. So I do agree with the defense there that amendment of the indictment's not permitted at this stage in the trial. In terms of the timing and the request by the state, the issue with waiting until Monday is if the defense is going to be prepared to start with its case in chief, the defense is entitled to know what it's defending against, and if potentially one of these counts is dismissed on a judgment of acquittal under Rule 29, that would affect potentially, in fairness, preparation for the defense. So in my mind, it's a fairly narrow issue where we have a filed amended indictment. We've got Criminal Rule 7E, we've got Criminal Rule 29. We've got our jury instruction number 4, which might be relevant on the on or about or on or between language. And I think with the prosecution team all here, I'd like to get this done and determined this afternoon. So it might feel like quick timing, but I'll give the state 2 additional hours to prepare for any.
And this took what seemed like an eternity to get done. From this point on, it was just like time just stopped. Did anybody feel like it? It just either slowed down or stopped. I want to just take an opportunity, if she's here and watching, and I think she is. Holly, thank you so much for buying a cup of coffee, buying some cups of coffee on the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee app. Thank you so much for supporting us here on YouTube and outside of YouTube by utilizing the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. Holly, thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, time just stopped. And for me, it was like we were in suspended animation, just looking at the court is in a recess and we'll be right back. We'll be right back. That message was just like, it freaked me out. Peter Ortiz, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. And Puzzle Pieces, thank you again for the super sticker. I gifted out 20 memberships. Welcome to all the members. Cheryl, thank you for gifting out a membership. It's so nice of you. And Puzzle Pieces, I'm honored that you became a member. And thank you. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us in this great community that we are growing every day. We're close to 302,000. We just hit a 300,000 milestone yesterday. And in 24 hours, we've grown another 2,000 subscribers. So thank you for hanging out with us here and taking a chance. just a couple of retired detectives that give our perspective on these cases. And Ed's going to have a lot to say about the forensics as it pertains to this case.
Further argument or authority, and we'll come back on the record at 2:30.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. You catch all that?
We damn sure did.
I'll show you. I hope you can see this. This right here on screen left is the indictment, the original indictment. And right here, it says JJ was killed between the 22nd and 23rd day of September 2019. And then so that indictment was filed in 2021. Then this year in February, this says JJ Vallow, there's his name, was killed on.
How many of you guys are concerned about Nate's cough and the cold that he had? He was so sick this past week. I was worried about him staying in a hotel and, you know, being outside of his home and sick and everything like that. Thank you, everybody. And Lou G, thank you. You're awesome. Puzzle Pieces says, yay, us. I love that she just became a part of this community from being a member, and she's jumping right in the pool. I love it, Puzzle Pieces. And I love the screen name. Christine says, I remember when you started. Yeah, it was late. Well, actually not late. Early 2019. We started January 22nd, 2019. Going live on YouTube. So since January of 2019. So
or between the 8th and 9th day of September.
So these are the documents that caused the ruckus today. This is the documents that caused
Nobody
caused the ruckus.
caught it. Not only on the prosecution, not John Pryor may have, he did say later that he knew, but he was not going to tip his hand or whatever. I don't know if he knew or didn't.
He's right here.
No reporters. None of you that study every single
none of us
piece of this case, no one caught on the amended indictment that the date was changed.
And neither did Nate.
The judge did. And the judge said, you did not present evidence in this case that showed JJ Vallow was killed between the 8th and 9th of September. He was very much alive. Well, we all left the courtroom.
It's okay, Lexi.
There were people crying. I went outside. Larry Woodcock was there. I did an interview with him. He spoke with the media. He started to become upset. He went and sat down. Several women joined around. They did a prayer circle.
Wow.
People were texting me.
I thought I saw Lauren Matthias, and I might be saying her name wrong. What is it? Hidden True Crime. I thought I saw her sitting right next to Larry Woodcock, texting or doing something on her phone. Was that her? Can anybody confirm that? In that news piece that we played before we just started listening to Nate, did I see her at the courthouse or sitting on the bench right next to Larry? Hidden True Crime, right? Yeah. I'm gonna look up her channel. Her husband's like the forensic psychologist, right? Her and her husband do it. I think they do great coverage. I've seen them when it pertaining to this case. I've seen them do coverage. Pete, 20 years retired from the Department of Corrections. Well, working behind the walls is no easy job. That is a tough job. I know about correction officers. I've been in and out of the prison system quite a bit in my 20 plus years in the NYPD. So I tip my cap to you, Pete, and you made it to the finish line. So I hope you're enjoying retirement. Yes, her name is Lauren. I'm going to look her up. Maybe we'll play some of the stuff that she did.
I called a couple of attorneys who said, don't stress it.
Thanks, Deb.
It would be a problem if the jurors had the case already. If the judge had given all the instructions and everything, and the jurors went in there and they're like, wait a sec, this says the 8th and the 9th. They didn't prove that. Then you could have an issue. It might be a problem if all of the dates were wrong on everything. But for the one charge, even if the judge had to throw this charge out and, it would be horrible. But you still have the conspiracy on JJ. You still have the murders on the other people. You still have that. I don't want to discount the JJ charge without a doubt. You still have all those other counts. So the prosecution had 2 hours to get an argument ready. John Pryor had 2 hours to anticipate what the argument would be, to fight that they did not prove this count on count 4, and that part should be dismissed.
As we know, that part did not get dismissed, and he's going to go on to show the court, coming back into session. Do you guys want to see this? I mean, I think most of you have seen it already. I don't want to waste time. We're here over an hour and 20 minutes. Jen saying Laura and John are very good people. Yeah, I have seen them. I just wanted to make sure that was her, because when I saw the news footage, I saw a blonde woman sitting next to Larry, and it wasn't Kay. And I believe that I thought that would look like her, but I didn't want to say anything because it could have been anybody. But yeah, I guess my guess was right. So we'll play the rest of this then.
2:30 comes. Everybody's ready.
Yeah, 2:30.
We're lined up in the hallway
God.
to go into the courtroom. We go in. Ingrid, again, is arguing, and here's what she said. Well, first of all, let me say, by the way, the judge, on all the other counts, he told Pryor denied. They proved
Rules and statutes. Your Honor, in looking at the case law and the relevant rules and
argument.
statutes, the state really has 3 options for the court at this point. The first, and I'll talk about each of them in a little more depth, but the first option would be, because count 4 of the amended indictment did not fall within the scope of the court's December 8th, 2023 order to amend, and we'll get to that in a moment, the court can simply correct it under Idaho Criminal Rule 36 so that it conforms with what count 4 should be, which would be count 4 as set forth in the original indictment. And I'll discuss that more in a moment.
I agree, Helen.
Second, the court could accept that we do have a variance here and either instruct the jury on a variance between the jury instructions and evidence that they've heard, or the court, under State versus Jones, which we'll also discuss in a moment, the court could address that variance by simply putting in September of 2019 in the count 4 jury instruction, which is very similar to what the court in Jones did, as we'll discuss in a moment. Third, and finally, the court would be within its discretion to reopen the case to allow the state to correct the indictment if the court does find that it needs to be formally amended.
So Ingrid says you've got three options. Here's what you can do. And then she explained what each.
And I didn't like, I mean, although she explained those 3 options real well, I still at that point was still really worried, because I did some looking into Rule 29 and I think Rule 7 and 9. There was a couple of things, and don't quote me on the numbers, but I know Rule 29, I read into it and I was like, shit, as much as I don't want to agree, I was like,
oh, hell no.
I was like, I think Pryor is right. I think that the judge is going to have no other choice, but I was so happy that I was freaking wrong. If there was ever a time that I was really joyous that I was wrong, and I just kept seeing JJ's face when the judge said denied. Only thing I saw in my mind, I closed my eyes and I saw JJ Vallow's face. And then I immediately thought of Larry, of how he breathed a sigh of relief. And then all of us. Because for those of you who are here, I don't know how many of you saw, but throughout this whole trial, I've been coming in and out of Nate Eaton's live chat, because that's how much I'm dedicated to this case. And a lot of times I watch through his channel on East Idaho News, but I don't go in the chat because I don't want to disrupt the chat. I don't want to go in there and have everybody saying hello to me and then get everybody off of what's happening. So I most of the time listen and just don't chat, but I'm there and I'm watching your chat and your comments in the live chat and saying, I really want to comment in there, but I try to keep it to a minimal because I don't want to disrupt the chat. It's about the victims and the families, and Nate's coverage is top notch. So I'm there with you guys, just like you all. I'm a watcher, and just because I'm retired law enforcement doesn't mean that that I'm anything special. I'm just like you guys. I'm a civilian, just like all of you guys. So I'm there watching. Welcome to the family, One Love. Thank you for becoming a member. I love that. I love that name, One Love. Awesome. All right, let's listen to the rest of this because I got to wrap it up. I got to go to bed.
Man, one, you could just
I go to work I get up at 6 a.m. So it's now almost midnight here. So in 6 hours, my alarm clock's going to go off. So I get up early because I work a full-time job. YouTube is not my full-time job. I have my own career and a job that I do. And that's why I can't go live during the day, because I'm at my job, place of business.
just open the case briefly, change it, and then close it. Two, well, you heard them all there.
An indictment information.
All there. You heard the other. All there. You heard all there. You heard speak. And here's what he said.
Reopening the case, the authority to reopen a case is almost exclusively applies to evidence, Judge. It does not apply to amending an indictment, information, or complaint. If the court recalls, I don't believe I objected to the original amendment to the.
Oh my God, Helen, go to sleep.
The indictment when we did that back November or December. The court read the indictment, went over it in detail with the state, and the state acknowledged that this is the indictment that they intended to go forward on. And from that time forward, that's the information that I relied on. And any change at this point, after the state has rested, is going to create a substantial due process argument for Mr. Daybell. In addition, it's going to affect the substantial rights of Mr. Daybell as well. The difficulty is this, Judge, is we have a very specific statute, 1914-20. 1914-20 says in pertinent part that the state may move after the defendant has pled guilty to a charge. Now he pled not guilty, and he did enter a plea of not guilty, and the state properly came forward and asked the court permission to amend the indictment. They then amended the indictment. And since approximately December of 2023, that indictment has remained in place in full force and effect. Now, they have that right to amend the indictment under 1914-20. But then we get to a very specific, a very direct rule, and that's Rule 7E. And Rule 7E says in pertinent part, Judge, that the court may permit amendment of a complaint, information, indictment at any time before the prosecution rests.
Welcome,
to my
Annabelle.
recollection in reading the statute on short notice, Judge, I never saw the words variance. I never saw, correct an error. I never saw anything to suggest that they have any right to do any of this. And there's a State versus O'Neill, Judge. I think it's 118 Idaho 244 that talks about Idaho Code and the statute 1914-20. But Judge, the specificity of 7E doesn't say the court has the authority to go back and allow them to reopen. It doesn't say they have the authority to go back and create a variance. It doesn't say they have a right to go back and make a correction. What it does say is they may and they have to make any amendments or corrections prior to resting their case.
Ingrid's argument, the prosecution's main argument, was this was a technical error. This was a technical error. And when we went in to do the change, the amendment earlier this year that the judge approved, the amendments were in counts, I don't remember, I think 1, 3, and 5.
Yeah, see, I
not even count 4.
See, that's why I was saying it was like 1, 3, and 5, and count 4 wasn't even included. Joyce, thank you for subscribing. She says, glad your channel came up on recommendations. Much love from East Texas. My grandparents were from Dallas, which is on the west side of Texas. And I used to spend many summers when school was out here in New York in hot Dallas, Texas. So I spent the many summers in Dallas. So I love the great state of Texas. Welcome. Hi, Marie. Good to see you. Gina, thank you, and welcome to a place where I know you just said that most of your family and your friends don't like true crime. So welcome. I'm glad to see the new faces here. And Cassandra, see you all the time in Nate Eaton's chat, and I thank you for being here as well. Thank you. But yeah, man, this was such a shitty day emotionally. It was up and down like a roller coaster. I was riding high listening to the FBI special agent's testimony. I thought he was on point. He was a tightened up guy. But then when it came to the end of the day, when the state rested their case, all hell broke loose and the shit hit the fan. Irish Pastry, thank you for becoming a member. And Diana, I don't want to say your last name. I don't want to dox you, but Diana from Long Island, now living in Southwest Florida. Thank you for the cups of coffee. She bought 3 cups of coffee. And she says, I appreciate your passion for law and order and justice for the victims and their families. From a lifelong Long Islander now living in Southwest Florida. Thank you for the support, Diana, for the 3 cups of coffee. It's $15. I appreciate you and I thank you. All right, let's listen to the rest of this because I got to get to bed.
Or should not have been touched at all. And because of that, this proves that this was a clerical error. You didn't give us permission to touch count 4. So we did 1, 3, and 5. And somehow, probably through a copy and paste, that happened in count 4.
Copy and
then
paste.
The judge took a break to go talk with his attorney and to study the law and whatever.
Yeah, his law clerk, he's got a law attorneys and he's got people who advise him that look up all the rulings in the case history and in the case law. And then he came back.
We went out again. More pins and needles.
Oh, and by the way, Annabelle, thank you for joining from outside the country. It's always great to see, my Aussie friends, my friends in the UK. I know it's in the middle of the night, early in the morning in the UK. But it's always great to see friends from outside the United States and inside, obviously. So it's great to see everybody here. And thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's go. Let's continue with this. I want to just continue
What's
it
he
out.
going to do? I will say, Larry and Kay Woodcock were not too nervous. Larry said it's going to work out. Judge Boyce came back in, and here's how he ruled.
So there was a time frame between May of 2021 and February of 2024.
Bye, Kitty.
Where the governing charging document was the initial indictment filed in this case. The state, by motion in November
Good night, Cook.
of 2023, sought
Cook.
to amend the indictment. And the court went back and reviewed that motion to amend the indictment. And specifically, leave was sought, as required by the rule, to amend counts 1, 3, and 5. And the court did have an objection filed, ultimately issued an order on December 8th of 2023, granting permission to amend the indictment. Among the charges sought to be amended, count 4 was not one of those. So when the amended indictment was filed, it did have an alteration on count 4. And so the court thinks it's important here to consider this procedural history. The original indictment on count 4 sets forth the dates of the alleged murder of J.J. Vallow of honor between the 22nd and 23rd of September 2019. The states argued then this is a clerical error that should be allowed to be cured, among other arguments. And looking at the history of the proceedings here, the court can make some conclusions. Number one, the court didn't permit or authorize any amendment to count 4 in the new amended indictment. So count 4 should not have been amended. Second, the dates that were put into the count 4 of the amended indictment of 8th and 9th of September 2019 mirror those dates of another count, count 2, which is the alleged murder of Tylee. Looking at that history, I think the court does believe it's a clerical error that led to the change of those dates. And so then the court has to consider whether or not there would be prejudice is one of the things I need to consider, the manner in which this could be fixed if it could, and whether or not there's any prejudice to the defense, which is always a big consideration and what the rules govern in seeking to protect due process rights of defendants. The court would note I also have to weigh that out with the right of the state to seek justice in a case with the charges it's filed. The state's argued it should be allowed to cure this, that it's a clerical error. The court notes that the defendant was on notice for a period of several years from May 25th up until that amended indictment in February of 2024. So nearly 3 years that the allegation was this murder of JJ had occurred on or between the 22nd and 23rd of September. In addition, the court would note that the evidence in the case all pointed to the dates of the 22nd and 23rd of September. And not only that, that same allegation's been made in a previous case that was tried last year by this court of co-defendant Lori Vallow with those dates. And of course, the defense here was aware of that trial, the evidence in that case, and a resulting conviction. So there's certainly no surprise that would come to the defense knowing that the dates that have been alleged are the 22nd and 23rd. So in terms of any prejudice, I wouldn't find that it would be prejudicial at this point to permit the amendment of the dates.
Okay, then the judge said, so he's going to allow the dates to change. He just doesn't know the process on how it's going to happen. So he's going to do some research and basically, I mean, you and I are probably like, well, just go in and change it. But legally, he's got to find the legal way to do it. He told Chad and John Pryor,
Trying to move it along because I think he does
have to be with.
Actually, he doesn't show it. All right. So essentially the judge rules. Let me just get rid of this. Hold on a second. Essentially the judge rules that that count 4 in the indictment can be corrected. And we won't have court tomorrow. We'll go back at it on Monday. So that was what it took us from limbo to excitement and exhilaration. And we were crying tears of joy. I think a lot of people were crying tears of joy because we all have been invested in this case. And I have been invested in it. I've got over 50 videos in my playlist. I think the only other case that I made more videos on is Orrin and Orson West Sincere and Classic from Bakersfield, California. That's my all-time most videos I've made in a series because it went on for so long and the trial was a long trial. Gina, thank you for buying 3 coffees. She says, love your channel. Thank you for spending your free time with us, educating us and making us feel welcomed and valued. Gina, thank you. I mean, if this is the same Gina, I don't want to dox you. I mean, it actually doesn't say your last name. It just gives @Gina. So I'm assuming that this is you. Thank you for the $15, and that's off of the YouTube app. So there's no fees that are taken out of it. So everything that you contribute there goes straight to the kitty. So the Buy Me Cups of Coffee app is a great way to support Dutyron and Ed Wallace. I want to say thank you to everybody who's been here tonight because this was unscheduled. And for those of you who are cheerleaders for justice, that's what this channel is about. I'm a big cheerleader for justice for the victims and their families and for bringing evil to justice. And, you know, without a live audience and without people showing up, this would be nothing. We'd have no channel. So live streaming is a passion of mine. I do it because we can have a conversation together. And when you get a chance, leave a comment down below in the comment sections because that's a way to continue the conversation after the live is over. And that's what I love about YouTube is like, if you go to Instagram Live or on X or Twitter Live, a lot of times you don't get to engage with the creators in the comments after the fact. But here on YouTube, we have that option. And I make it a point to say and answer as many of the comments. And so does Ed Wallace. If you leave us a question or a concern, it may take us maybe not, it might not be instantaneous, but we do get back to as many people as we can. So Jen is saying, Dutyron, can you read Schmitty's comment, please? Schmitty retyped it, please, for her. She's not a him. She's a her. That's my good friend Schmitty, who I met for pizza. For the love of Pete. Now I got to go back. Let's look. Hold on, Schmitty. What the hell? Okay, I'm getting there, Schmitty. This better be good. All right, here we go. I can't do a super chat, so here's my $5 message. That doesn't count. I dislike yet respect this process. I feel like they should just be thrown under the jail, wash their hands and be done with it. I'm with you, man. I'm with you on that. Schmitty, thank you for the comment. And guess what? I think these subhumans, these evil monsters, should be thrown under the jail. And I don't think that they should even, like we hear from our prison experts, Anthony Ganji from Tier Talk, they all have to be treated with respect and dignity. I get that. They're human beings. But when you take another human's life the way these two did, when they take the lives of their own flesh and blood, and Chad's included, he took his wife's life in the name of what? Money, greed, sex, power, command and control. And he took the mother to his kids and killed her and tried to cover it up. He wanted to cremate Tammy. And because Tammy Daybell's family said, you're not cremating my daughter, he wasn't able to get away with getting rid of the evidence like they did with Alex Cox. So I feel strongly about justice for the families, for the victims. And I want to thank everybody for being here because you guys are what makes this a great place. So thank you to the moderators. Thank you for the replay viewers. Thank you for the live chatters. Thank you for the super chatters and people who took the time out to become members of this community. I am going to let you know, I'll let you know a secret. In June, next month, in June, I'm going to be going to the Gabby Petito Foundation golf outing out here on Long Island. And I got an invite from her mom, Nicole. Gabby Petito, as you know, if you're living under a rock, you never heard of it, the case, but she was murdered by her boyfriend, fiance, Brian Laundrie. And her mom asked me to come and live stream at the fundraiser that they're doing. It's a golf outing. I'm not a golfer, but she invited me by text message to come, and she wants me to do a live stream and interview Joe Petito, her husband, and people who are there. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to accept that invitation from Gabby Petito's mom. And I'm going to go out there in June next month and live stream it. And I'm going to turn on gifting, where every super chat from that live stream goes to the Gabby Petito Foundation. And they are helping other people search for the missing. And that's something I'm passionate about. And they also donate money to domestic violence shelters, battered women's shelter, domestic violence things. So they're doing great things, and I'm proud and I'm honored. So any super chats that come in during that live stream will not go to me and then get processed and sent to them. It'll go directly to the Gabby Petito Foundation. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and I thank you guys for all being here. And as I always say, listen, this is about JJ, Tylee, Ryan, and Chad's wife. Tammy didn't deserve it. JJ didn't deserve it. Tylee did not deserve what happened to them. So we send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to them and the prosecutors and everybody that's involved in this case to get justice. We hope the jury comes back and deliberates and finds Chad Daybell guilty of all charges. On behalf of Crime Time with Dutyron and Ed Wallace, I want to thank you for being here. God bless. I'll see you guys all soon. Peace and love.